All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us for our virtual event today. Wherever you are around the world, we really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedules to hear a little bit about Boston University as well as the early decision process. Before we get started, though, my name is Randy Joes. I'm one of the assistant directors on the Board of Admissions here at BU. And again, on behalf of our team, thank you all for being here. So as you might see on your screen, we have a few topics we're going to go through today. And so just to run through that really quickly, I'm going to do an introduction sort of the program. Following that, I'm going to talk a little bit about our BU community. Afterwards, we're going to talk briefly about the application process and what that means for early decision, and specifically early decision 2. And then towards the end, we're actually going to bring on two experts, if you will, two terriers on our campus, two students, current students, who are going to talk a little bit about their journey and about their experience here on campus. And there will be time during that portion where you can send in questions to our panelists. And so if you want to submit a question, there is a question box where you can go and submit that question, and we'll try our best to answer as many as we possibly can. Also, just to know, we only here for about an hour or so, so please, after this program has ended, if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to our office via email or telephone, or even reaching out to your regional representative that may be able to answer some more of your questions after the program. And also to please continue to be in contact with our office in any form or fashion, whether that's coming to an open house in the future, of course, when you apply to BU, reaching out to your specific regional rep, or going to a high school visit in the future, wherever you may be in the application process. We want to continue to be engaged with you throughout this cycle. Now, to kick us off and sort of a little bit about who we are as a community. Here at Boston University, we have roughly a little over 16,000 undergraduate students who come from all 50 states and over 100 countries worldwide. Our community here has all of our students are pursuing one of over 300 programs of study that reside in 10 undergraduate schools and colleges. So all of you applying to BU in the future, if you are applying to for enrollment in the future, you would want to designate which school that you're interested in, and that school will open up then those majors that are available for that school that you can choose from. And our schools range in sizes from our largest in the College of Arts and Sciences down to some smaller pre-professional schools like our School of Hospitality Administration, our Wheelock College of Education and Human Development, and of course so much more. Now, our students are coming from, again, all around the world, and roughly 24% of our population is from an international background. So we really strive each and every year to build a global community and also a global campus, both in the programs that we offer as well as the population that is occupying this 1.3-mile stretch here in Boston on Commonwealth Avenue. Now, when you're starting your BU career here, of course, you're going to dive right into your academic pathway. And so that pathway can take many different forms, whether that's through just a specific major that you have in a specific school. If you come in as an undecided major, you're more than welcome to use those first 2 years to sort of figure out what you want to do in that time, and you will get an advisor to help you navigate the academic portion of our campus. And then once you land in that major, perhaps even add a minor as well, you can pursue things like a double major within the same school or college. You can also pursue, for certain programs, maybe a dual degree track, which allows you to pursue 2 bachelor's degrees, typically within a 4-year timeline from 2 separate schools. Now, please note that not all programs will match up together as well when it comes to getting it accomplished in 4 years. So you want to really talk to your advisor once you arrive on campus to make sure that is a possibility for you with the programs that you're interested in. Now, in terms of the folks you're going to be learning from, right? Our faculty are tremendous, not only advocates for our students, but just incredible resources for all of the terriers that are here on campus. We have a 10-to-1 student to faculty ratio with an average class size of roughly 27 students. So our students have a real great opportunity to engage with our faculty on a much deeper level as someone, as an extension of the classroom, and also just maybe a lifelong on campus to help you with maybe future recommendation letters, or perhaps maybe recommending you for a job or an internship or something to that effect when you are part of the BU community. And they're going to be here learning alongside of you as well. Because if you didn't know, Boston University is the 4th largest private teaching and research university in the country. And with all the grants and funding that we have for all of our students, as an undergraduate, you can absolutely get involved with things like research, whether that's through an independent research through your program of study, whether that's through in-class research, or even through some directed programs like our undergraduate research opportunities program, or we call it here Europe, or just simply pairing off with a professor and really just taking a hold of a subject and going forth that way. We also want you to study here on our campus, but also want you to go out and explore the world, right? We are a global community, and so study abroad is really a big part of our community, where almost half the student body will go abroad at least one semester. And we'll talk a little bit more about the process of studying abroad in just a little while. But our students really take advantage of that opportunity. And mind you, every single school and college here at BU, undergraduate-wise, has at least one opportunity for students to go abroad. So note that whatever program you end up starting in, each school will have an ability to go abroad, and you'll work with your advisors in the study abroad office to make sure that it's a possibility if you want to take advantage of that. Work experiences is also part of sort of overall this experiential learning piece that I've been mentioning in the last few minutes, where perhaps you'd want to work maybe overseas somewhere, which in terms of studying abroad, doing an international internship is something that our students really love to do. And it's actually one of the more popular ways to study abroad here at BU. So our students have worked for Parliament over in London, to doing some student teaching in New Zealand, to doing some marine science research off the coast of Belize, to perhaps doing some art galleries over in Venice. And then there are some students who, of course, want to maybe leave BU, but not necessarily the United States. So there are students who might study abroad in places like Washington, D.C., New York City, as well as Los Angeles, California, where we have some directed programs in those three cities as well. But note that your overall experience here, the community is really engaging in all aspects of the word, really, from academics to experiential learning, and of course, getting involved with student clubs, organizations. In our community here, we have over 450 clubs, organizations that our students participate in. There are also students who are participating in our NCAA Division I sports, Go Terriers, and of course, there are students who are involved in a myriad of things, from theater to community service to maybe some of the Greek life organizations that we have here, and so much more. And all of these experiences have led to our students really having a fulfilled, engaged, and passionate experience while they're here on campus, and developing relationships and friendships and memories that will truly last a lifetime. And BU really provides that platform for you to explore and to dive into subjects, into programs, into opportunities that you may not get anywhere else. And so our community is really striving to leave really BU, but also leave this world a better place, and to really strive for that academic excellence and having that unique engagement with Boston and the world. We really are game changers here on campus, and that's something that we're really passionate about. So again, that's a little bit about our community. We're going to get a lot more in detail about that. But I want to go quickly now through the application process and some of the things that we are considering in this process here. And just to note that not all this information can be found on our website, but also, again, reach out to us if any of this doesn't make sense, or if you have more questions about this, we're certainly here to help. Now, when it comes to the process, we really are seeking to bring together a very diverse group of students who are academically accomplished, intellectually curious, and so on. And we, as a member, myself really, as a member of the Board of Admissions and our staff here, are really conduct a thoughtful and comprehensive review of your academic and extracurricular achievements inside and outside of the classroom, and many factors play into the decision of a student's application. And no two pieces of information are the same, and they really tell us a lot about a student in different ways. Your GPA, your test scores, the curriculum you take, all tell us one part of your application. But of course, your recommendation letters, your extracurricular activities, and anything you've done outside of that, your application essays, will all tell us a different part of who you are overall as an applicant. Now, I mentioned before that we have a global community here. We really strive for that global presence. And so just to give you some context of where our applicants are coming from, this past year, we had over 62,210 applications from all 50 states and over 163 countries worldwide. And so when it comes to our students and where they're applying, and one of the things that we have to do as the Board of Admissions is to go out to those communities and really learn about your schools, learn about the communities you're coming from. And so we have a domestic and international team that really go out into the world to hear about your experiences, hear about your communities, talk to your school counseling offices and your college counseling offices to know as much context as we can about where you come from, to then bring that information back, to then have that as part of our review in the future. Now, if you're following along on the PowerPoint here, you can see this is a little bit of demographic information of the BU first year students. This is based on this fall right here in 2019. So you can take a look at some of these demographics here. But one of the places I want to highlight is that 15% of our students did identify as a first generation student to go to college. And I myself was first gen to go to school as well. And so if you identify as first gen, please let us know about it. We really are trying our best each and every year to make BU in that transition to BU as seamless as possible from high school to college. We know this process is not easy, not for all applicants, of course, but especially for our students who are first generation. Definitely let us know. We'd love to see how much more we could do to help in the future. Now, we are typically looking overall for a class size of a little over 3,100 students overall, and this past year we had around 790 transfers join us for the fall semester. When it comes to students applying to BU, there's really two options for all of our applicants. The first is, of course, early decision, which as of now, our first early decision deadline had passed over on November 1st, so we are now talking about early decision 2, which is coming up as a deadline of January 6th, and we'll get to more deadlines in just a little bit. Just to let you know, in terms of difference between ED1 versus ED2 is simply the name and the deadline of which those application types are due, but both early decision applications are both binding. The early decision, of course, is a binding agreement and binding program, and so ED2 is the same exact way. As you can see on the pie chart here, we had roughly 45% of our class come in through the early decision cycle, but again, about 55% then came from the regular decision pool. So again, two really great options for applicants that are thinking that BU could be in their future. Now, in terms of the profile for an early decision student, what do they look like academically? So as you can see on the screen here, last year, just to give you some context of how many students applied, we had a little over 4,600 students applying through early decision, both 1 and 2 altogether. Again, 45% of our students were enrolled from the early decision class. And then the average rank from high school was around top 15% of their class. They had an overall GPA average on an unweighted 4.0 scale of a 3.6. The middle 50% range for the SAT was between a 1320 and a 1430, and then the middle 50% range for ACT was between a 29 and a 32. So still a pretty competitive class, and we're really proud to obviously share these statistics just because we see the type of accomplishments you all have had in your classrooms and your just overall in your high school career, and we're really proud to say that our students in early decision are really great just on the surface level here academically. They've done such incredible work to get to this point, of course. Now, this is what we typically recommend for a high school curriculum, and just note that no two curriculums are the same, right? A student's curriculum and your transcript that you may get, for example, from Ohio will be very different from someone who might have a transcript from California or from Florida or even in England over in India. So just note that this is what we recommend for a high school curriculum, but there may be some little tweaks and caveats depending on what high school you attend. So you can take a look at sort of the checklist here. But a couple things I do want to highlight is if anybody here is interested in the Questrom School of Business or the College of Engineering, just note that we do need to see you've taken calculus in some capacity in high school in those between freshman and senior year. And calculus can be just standard level calculus. Of course, we have some students doing honors calculus and AP calculus, whether it's A, B, or BC. Those are all great classes to take, but we do need to see calculus taken in some capacity for you to be considered for either the Questrom School of Business or the College of Engineering. If you do not have calculus, and we do obviously highly recommend pre-calculus, but again, if you do not have that class, there might be you might want to have an opportunity to discuss maybe some other options for BU in terms of a school to start with here. And then if you have an international baccalaureate degree or a French baccalaureate or German orator or some sort of international curriculum, we actually go through trainings to make sure we can understand those curriculums and to bring forth those credits and those classes to make sure you get all the credits you deserve while we're reviewing your application here in the process. And then just again, just a reminder for the deadlines for if any of you are thinking about applying to BU in the future, January 6th is the big deadline for early decision 2 applicants. If anybody here though realizes that maybe ED may not be for you, we still have regular decision, which is also a January 6th deadline, and that is the application for admission as well as need-based aid. And so when it comes to this process for early decision 2, your application is due on January 6th, and we are asking if you want to apply for need-based aid that both the FAFSA and the CSS profile are also due the same deadline as your application. So in this case, it'll be January 6th for those two documents to be submitted to us in order for us to consider you for financial need from BU. And then in terms of a notification date, February 15th is when we'll notify our students for early decision two with regard to the decision on their application. And then late March or so is when we'll announce for and release those decisions for students in the regular decision pool. So, but for early decision two and purposes of today, January 6th is the deadline for all documents. February 15th is when you'll find out exactly the decision on the application. And then just in terms of financial assistance, because of course we cannot talk about this process without financial assistance, of course. So when you look on the screen there, you can see that we are now meeting 100% full need for admitted first-year students in this process. And we are primarily a need-based aid university, but there are 2 merit scholarships that students could have applied for. Unfortunately, that deadline has passed here on December 1st. But again, need-based aid, we are meeting again 100% for those first-year admitted students. And we are trying our best to make BU as affordable as we can to as many students as possible. Of course, if you have any further questions on this, please feel free to call our office or also call the financial assistance office. They'll be more than happy to assist you in this financial aid review. Okay, I went through a lot of that really fast, so I do apologize, but we want to kick off now with our next portion here of the program. And so we went through a bit of the BU community, the application process for applying, and now I want to bring on as I mentioned, 2 experts, 2 terriers who are living the life day to day on our campus to talk about their journey. So I'm going to have our panelists come on with me. So forgive us, we're just going to do a little shifting here. Back up here. Hello, team.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Doing well, yeah? Awesome. All right. So again, thank you all, and thank you both for being here. We really appreciate it. So first things first, why don't we just do some quick introductions? So if you don't mind stating your name, where you're from, what year you are here at BU, and then your major that you're currently pursuing. So whoever wants to start, feel free.
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Riaz Garcia. I'm originally from Revere, Massachusetts. I'm a current sophomore in the College of Arts and Sciences and Part D School of Global Studies, and I major in International Relations and minor in Economics.
All right.
Hi everyone, my name is Valerie, and I'm currently a senior here at BU. I am from Lawrence, Massachusetts, and I'm studying health science as well as working on my Master's of Public Health over at BU School of Public Health.
Awesome. I'm so excited that we have both Riaz and Val are here because they have some unique experiences, and of course, being in 2 different grades here at BU, have a lot of experiences and a lot of things to talk about. So first things first, I just want to start off by talking a little bit about sort of the big question here. Why did you, both of you, why did you end up choosing to come to Boston University? So whoever wants to start, maybe?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So actually, I grew up in a city that's about 30 to 40 minutes away from Boston. So I've always kind of known the area. I've been to Boston a few times, but I think I wanted to get away from my hometown and explore what was kind of familiar, but also still a little bit unknown to me. So on my tour here at Boston University, actually, I also took the time to explore the city. And in that moment, I kind of just knew that BU offers you the chance for so much exploration. So on campus, you can do so much with your academics and with your extracurriculars and whatnot, but you also have the city right there for you in your hands, in the palm of your hands. And I knew that with that meant a lot of opportunities for my career and also just for personal exploration.
Sure, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Raz? What did you
I think for me, when I was looking at schools, I was definitely looking a lot in the Boston area as well. And so for me, one of the things that drew me to BU specifically was that I felt, aside from just having like students who always like excelled academically or wanted to be like challenged academically, we have like a really strong community of students who are really passionate about whatever it is they do outside the classroom. And so whether it's someone who's like really involved with different clubs or student organizations or like a sport or an instrument, I felt like having that community around me was something that was going to push me to really explore things that I was passionate about and maybe like find new passions along the way. And so that was what drew me to the school.
Awesome, great. And obviously when we start off when it comes to the BU career here is obviously in your academics. And so each of you has a really unique program that you're pursuing. And so Riaz, I'm gonna start with you if you don't mind. Can you talk about sort of how you really kind of landed, I guess, of course, in international relations and having the mind that you have, but really the concentration as well that you're pursuing at this point?
Yeah, so for me, coming into VU, I would say I was definitely one of those students that had a pretty good sense of what they wanted to study. In high school, I was involved with like my school's debate team and Model UN team, so I always knew I was a little bit interested in international relations. And so having had the chance to like take those classes my freshman year, definitely solidified that I like absolutely love my major. One of the things that I really enjoy about IR here at BU is that by the end of our sophomore year, we do have to declare 2 concentrations within the major. So you pick one in a part of the world and then also one in a specific field within IR. So for me, I concentrate in Latin America and then also foreign policy and security studies. So it's been a nice way for me to really hone in on like what I'm specifically interested in and really get that like specified sort of area of study. And then in terms of my minor, I'm currently working towards a minor in economics. And so that's sort of been a way for me to still do a subject that I'm really passionate about. My favorite subject has actually always been math, despite being an IR major. So it was a nice way for me to maybe not have as much like intensive math, but then also still see how it'll apply out into the real world, whether like people like when they purchase things or like how trade works and things like that. So
yeah, it's a really really intense subject, if I do say so myself. It's really cool though. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But Val, you have a bit of again, a unique program in the sense that you're doing what that's called really a 4+1 sort of track. And so what's the program and what does that 4+1 mean?
Yeah, sure. So I'm basically going to be earning my bachelor's degree in health science, which is a program here at Boston University's Charles River campus. But I also will be spending an extra year over at Boston University School of Public Health. And there I'll be working on earning my master's of public health. What got me there really was my background. Again, my hometown means a lot to me. And so actually freshman year, I really didn't really know what I wanted to study until I went back home that summer between freshman and sophomore year. And I was just home in Lawrence for the summer, and I realized that the community that I grew up in and that I live in is very disadvantaged, unrepresented, and just faces a lot of injustices and hardships. So in knowing that, I knew that I wanted to kind of move into the public health field, and luckily BU does offer obviously the MPH program. So I'm glad that I have the opportunity to do that, and it's only 1 extra year, so that's always a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like both of you had sort of whether that's upbringings or just environments of which you wanted to pursue kind of passions you've already had, but maybe help realize here at BU too, which is awesome. So being able to pursue both, that's great. Now, for some students coming to college, one of the things that might be something that is a little either unnerving or maybe some folks get nervous about is housing and actually living with somebody. For many folks out there, they may not actually either live with anybody, they might be an only child, or perhaps just hasn't really shared a room with someone else they've never known before. So could both of you or one of you talk a little bit about sort of the housing process and how has housing worked for you since being at BU?
Yeah, so in terms of the housing process here at BU, the way it works as an incoming student, you get to rank where you want to live on campus. So it's pretty much you'll list out your preferences like 1 through 5. So there's no like set building for any of the incoming students or any specific like class year. In terms of my personal experience, so I actually lived in our western portion of campus during my freshman year. And so I really enjoyed living there just because it was closer to a lot of our like athletic facilities. So like our campus gym, and then also like our outdoor fields and our like a Guinness arena where like the men's and women's hockey teams play. So it was really nice in terms of like being really close to a lot of the student life sort of stuff that we have on our campus. And then in terms of my like actual roommate experience, I actually went completely random. And so the way that that works is that it'll prompt a short little questionnaire to like get to know your living style. It asks me things like what time do I go to bed at night, like what time do I wake up in the morning. And so my experience actually ended up working really well. My freshman year roommate, coincidentally, our hometowns like border each other.
Nice.
And so it was really nice in terms of just bonding over like different places we went to like growing up, like restaurants or like different fun things we did in the area. And so we just got along like extremely well too. Yeah.
Nice. And you started out in West. And so what's the saying for folks who start in West? Like, what's the little rivalry that happens on campus?
Yeah, so here on campus, for anyone living in West, we always say West is best. In terms of the layout of BU's campus, a lot of the like academic buildings fall on our eastern portion of campus. So it sort of depends on if you want to be close to them, like waking up every morning and just being a 5-minute walk from classes, or if you rather be like closer to the gym, so that way you can force yourself to do that. So
Nice.
yeah.
Do you have any East or West sort of feelings on?
So I actually had the whole 5-minute situation. I lived in Warren Towers.
Oh, there you go.
So I
Okay.
guess we can't be friends.
And we're done for the day.
But yeah, no, Warren Towers is like one of our largest dormitories here on campus. And like Riaz said, it is kind of in the central portion of campus where you are kind of close to most of the academic buildings. So I think it was very convenient. And if that's something that you prioritize, then maybe that's a better choice for you. But there are tons of options on campus in terms of housing for all types of students.
Sure. I think one of the things that we've always talked about here at BU is sort of finding your community. At a medium to large high school, right, at 16,000+ students, sometimes that could be a little daunting for some students joining a community of that size. And so, Val, I'm actually going to start with you if you don't mind. Can you talk a little bit about how you found your community here, whether that's through academics, extracurriculars, or otherwise, if there's one moment, club, program that really set this off for you? If you don't mind sharing, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, so I think I was lucky enough to find my community through one of the student organizations here on campus, actually. It's called Asian Student Union. And what's really cool about Asian Student Union is that it's actually an all-inclusive organization. So you don't necessarily have to identify as Asian or Asian American to join any of our events and things like that. And that was really helpful for me because I actually identify as Cambodian. And BU, not that I know of, doesn't have a like Cambodian student association or something like that. So I felt like ASU was really the perfect place for me. And again, ASU being all inclusive, it means that you get to meet people from all different cultures and ethnicities and races. So you're learning a lot from them while also expressing yourself and sharing, your language and your food and your culture. So I'm very grateful for them, and I've been with them for 3 years now. So
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
it's been
awesome.
great.
Yeah. And what about you, Riaz? Any sort of comments?
I would say similarly, definitely through getting involved with like a lot of the different student organizations that we have on campus. Here, I'm really involved with Alianza Latina, so that's BU's Latin student organization. And I would say one of the things that was really helpful for me was that within our club, we do have our own Big and Little program. I know a lot of the cultural student groups have similar programs, but so ours is called the Hermanos program. And my big, Augustine, he's from Atlanta. He's actually the same major as me, so he was always a really good, just like in terms of like giving me advice on like maybe what to take or just like different ways to prepare for like my different classes or things like that. But then also just outside of that, like we will go out to like eat in the city. We'll go, it's pretty funny because since I'm like from the area, instead of him showing me around the city, it's like me showing him around the city. But yeah, it's just been a nice way to really get to know a lot of people from like similar backgrounds as me. And then also just have sort of like that mentor on campus.
Sure. And when we, again, speaking about community, folks want to gravitate to something, really kind of bond together on the campus. And so I think sometimes like campus traditions can kind of do that. Some things are a bit more unique to a certain community, whether that's in Boston or otherwise. And so do either of you have a favorite sort of BU tradition that is around here? I can tell you for me, one of the things that I'm looking forward to, not only as being a staff member here on campus, but also I'm also pursuing my master's degree, is the graduation sort of tradition of the BU seal that's on Marsh Plaza. I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But yeah, either of you have any BU traditions you'd like to share?
Yeah, so mine is actually that same
Oh, is it
one.
the same thing? Oh,
yeah.
nice.
So I mean, I don't know if you want me to steal your thunder.
No, you do steal it.
Yeah,
They want to
so
hear
in
from you.
terms of the BU seal, it's basically the legend around it, or the seal, it's in the center of our campus. So no matter what, you'll probably be walking by it every year or every day. But the legend behind it is that if you step on it during your time as a BU student, you won't graduate within like 4 years, or I guess however long you're supposed to or suspected to be here. And so for me, that definitely means a lot, just being like one of the first people in my family to go to college. It's always sort of like a reminder that like one day I'll walk by, or one day when it gets to graduation day, that I'll be able to get sort of that infamous like BU graduation picture. Yeah, one of my favorite things about it is that they roll out like a big red carpet for like all the seniors. So towards the end of the year, you'll see all the upperclassmen like there with their families taking that like graduation picture.
Nice, nice. Any sort of traditions you like?
I have two favorite traditions,
Ooh, nice,
and
nice.
they're both food related.
Yes.
So
Oh, awesome,
clearly,
awesome.
I love food. The first is Lobster Night, and the second is the midnight breakfast that is open to all first-year students. So I'll start with Lobster Night.
Lobster Night.
Yes, Lobster Night is basically a night, I think earlier in the year, like in September, where all of our dining halls are just giving out lobster. And the lines are massive to get into the dining halls on this on the specific night. But it's such a fun experience because you get to just kind of, take apart the lobster and get messy, and everyone has like little bibs and gloves, so it's expected that, you're going to be a little bit of a mess. But everyone's doing it, and it's fun, especially if you've never had seafood before, or never had lobster before. And in my case, that was the situation. So, I got to the dining hall and I was like, oh, how do you do this? But it's a fun little tradition that we have here at the U. And then secondly is the midnight breakfast, which actually I think is coming up pretty soon. It's typically on the last day of classes during the fall semester, where all first-year students are invited to have breakfast, but also to engage in tons of activities that are kind of like stress relieving because finals are approaching. So on this last night, you get to play Mario Kart with your friends, or stuff a stuffed terrier. So like fun things like that. Yeah.
Nice. And since we're on the topic of food, obviously that's a big part of the college experience. So
Yes.
Val, I'm gonna kick it to you if you don't mind, since you love food. Can you talk about sort of the several dining options here on campus, what are available to students, and perhaps maybe within the dining halls themselves, whether it's a gluten-free, vegan, like type of meals that you may find in the cafeteria?
For sure, yeah. So there are 3 main dining halls here on campus, and the 3 of them are spread out throughout the campus. So, there was certainly going to be one in the area that you're residing or the area that you are in just at that time of the day. And I would say that all 3 of our dining halls have great options. So options in regards to like what you're actually enjoying that day. So you can have pizza one day and like chicken pot pie the next. You're never really getting tired of the food, and it's always changing up. But also, if you have any dietary restrictions or allergies or food preferences, we have all those options too. We have a gluten-free station, vegan options, and if you have any allergies that you're concerned about, the BU Dining Services will definitely work with you on that.
And then I believe there's correct me if I'm wrong, is there a sergeant choice option? And so what is sergeant choice if they see this in the dining hall?
Yeah, so Sargent is actually the school that I'm enrolled in, so
Okay.
I love to talk about it. But so Sargent Choice is basically they're meals that are designed by actual nutrition students here at BU, and they're basically creating meals that are, a little bit healthier for you, and if you want to be more conscious about that, then you have those options there for you. It's not obviously the only thing that the dining hall is serving, so you have options. And that's just really great because not only are students having the opportunity to create these meals for their friends and their peers, but we also get to enjoy them as well.
Yeah, and if you have a shellfish allergy, don't worry, there'll be options for you for lobster night.
Yes.
Of course, yes. We could probably talk about food for a long time. I'm getting hungry thinking about it, but we're going to shift gears just for a second. So Riaz, I'm going to kick it to you if you don't mind. As I was mentioning before in my comments, I do think one of the big parts of the community that I think is important to note is sort of the relationships you may form with the faculty of what you learn from, whether that's in your major or even classes otherwise that you might take. And so is there a faculty member or even advisor that you've been close to since being here at BU?
Yeah, I would say for me, one faculty member that I was really connected with was Professor Shilde. So she was she's one of the professors in our PAR-D School of Global Studies. So she teaches our Introductory International Relations course. And one of the things that I really appreciated about her was that she was always really inviting in terms of coming to talk to her, regardless of whether it was like about the material or just like anything maybe like career related. She really loved talking about like different jobs that we could go into within IR. So that was really helpful for me, just because like as an incoming first year student, it can seem a little bit like daunting to go to see like meet one-on-one with your professors in their office hours. And so it was really nice to just be able to go into her and chat with pretty much anything, like about anything. So within our department, like we do have a few former like CIA officers and like FBI officers and like former ambassadors. So she's a really great like pinpoint person, depending on what career paths that we were interested in or different like interests we had, and being able to connect us with them and different people that she knew. So yeah.
Nice, yeah. So really extending herself to like to really connect with you within the subject and beyond. That's phenomenal. And Val, sort of a similar question, but maybe also a professor or faculty member that kind of took the class material and really made it something that you couldn't miss each week. Like, what was something different about the professor and how they taught the class that you were taking?
So actually, a professor that instantly came to mind is a professor I had when I was abroad. Is that okay?
Of course, yes, because we're going to choose that.
Yeah. So Professor Dr. Verma, he was a professor that I had for my public health courses when I was abroad in Geneva, Switzerland last semester. And what was really unique about him is he was really encouraging of us to kind of have a global perspective. You know, when you're attending school in the United States, and for me, I've grown up in the United States, it's kind of all that you know. So each week, in order to encourage us to have more of that global perspective, is he would actually implement a quiz on the news, global world news, each week. I will say in the moment it was a little bit stressful because, of course, you know, you're going to be thinking about your grade and whatnot. But it really pushed you to be reading news articles from the moment you wake up instead of going on Instagram or Snapchat. You know, you're reading all this information that is, I think, really important to know. So reflecting back on my experience with him, I am very grateful that he pushed us to do that because I did gain that global perspective and now think that way. And it's really important, obviously, when it comes to my studies and my career and thinking about public health.
Sure, sure. And while we're on the topic of just the global community and the programs that we offer here, studying abroad and that experience for you, when did you go? Did you enjoy it? And sort of what was the process of getting there, I guess? What was the process like?
So as I mentioned, I went to Geneva, Switzerland during the spring semester last year. And I was on the public health track, but was also on in the internship program. So the way that works is in the first half of the semester, you are taking a couple courses. And then in the second half of the semester, you are actually going to be having an internship abroad, which is, I think, one of the coolest parts of this program.
Yeah.
So the internship part meant a lot to me because I, again, was having more of an opportunity to gain that global perspective. I was working with a nonprofit organization called Graduate Women International, and they're actually associated with the United Nations. So every now and then, maybe once every 2 weeks, I actually got to travel to the United Nations office in Geneva and be surrounded by delegates and just really important people. And I got to sit in on like the Human Rights Council. So this is just one example of something that you could do when you're abroad. There are tons of things to do. But I definitely highly encourage considering studying abroad, especially if you're interested in things like international relations, public health, and fields like that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Gosh, what an experience.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
And when building this global class, of course, we're going to get students from all over the world, or even in the United States as well. Some things we always experience, though, and Riaz, I'm going to keep this question to you. Being in New England, the weather can be a bit fickle, if I do say so myself. Even something like this week, it went from a 35-degree day to a 61-degree day and raining. And tomorrow I heard it's going to go back to 35 degrees. So the weather fluctuates every time, every year, fall, spring. And so do you have any advice on things that students should pack, buy before they get to campus, while they're here, just to sort of prep for all types of the weather and the things they're going to experience, especially for folks who may have even never seen snow before? Is there anything you'd give advice for those students?
Yeah, so one thing that I always recommend to people, especially if you're coming from, let's say, like the West Coast or like Florida or places like that, definitely don't buy your jacket over there. In terms of like the coats, like you're definitely just going to be designed a lot better over here just because like the weather we have here in New England. But then aside from that, definitely I always recommend dress in layers, and then also have like good like hats or gloves, and pretty much just like cover all parts of your body to stay warm. Yeah, that's sort of my
Touche.
advice.
Yeah, of course. And when it comes to just living here in the city, right? Weather is obviously one thing that students will have to think about, but I think also this urban environment, I think it's going to be sort of a new stage for some students, might be some new environment that they're going to be introduced to. And so how did you both sort of acclimate to living in the city? Is there anything that you really enjoy about living in the city? Is there anything that you were surprised by living in Boston? And I guess what Boston means to you, I guess.
So transitioning to Boston definitely was interesting for me because the high school that I attended was very suburban, green fields, things like that, and definitely not in the city. So the way that I acclimated to it, I would say, actually I did this thing with my friends where each weekend, if we were available in the beginning of the year, we would go to a different neighborhood of Boston. Because again, I was kind of familiar with Boston at the time, but there were definitely still things I didn't know about it and areas I didn't know. So we kind of challenged ourselves to go to Newberry Street and then the next week go to the Commons and just see all that Boston has to offer. Now that's something that I know that we did for fun and maybe not feasible for everyone, but I encourage exploring because there's so much that Boston has to offer, and even now as a senior, I feel like I still haven't, gotten to all the different neighborhoods and areas.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think like similarly, I'm also from a little bit outside of Boston, but I think at the end of the day, like we can both agree, there's nothing like having Boston like right next to us. In terms of like BU's campus, right on our eastern portion of campus, you're like about a 5-10 minute walk from like the Fenway area of Boston, and then from there, about like a 15-20 minute walk is also like the Back Bay area of Boston, so like Prudential Center, Newberry Street, Boylston Street. So it's really nice to be able to just walk and get to those places like really easily from our campus. And so one nice thing that they do is they will offer us like a lot of things in the Boston area just for being BU students, so we can get into like a lot of the different museums in the city for free. We can get like Red Sox tickets for $9 for some of the games that they don't sell.
Ridiculous.
So yeah, there's just a ton of great stuff to do, and so there's always something going on like in the city for students to take advantage of.
Now, what about getting around the city or even getting around campus? Can you have a car on campus? And if not, or if they don't have one, how do you actually get around to different parts of the city of Boston?
I would personally say that Boston University is pretty walkable, and if not walkable, there are tons of options for transportation. Boston University actually has a free shuttle that they offer to their students, and all you have to do is hop on and hop off. There's no card or payment system at all, and it really takes you wherever you need to go. It even goes over to our medical campus, which is about 20 minutes from the main campus. So that's one option. And then also, as Riaz mentioned, we have the subway. We call it the T here, and that actually runs straight through our campus. Yeah, so definally an option for us.
Anything to add, Riaz? Or
no, I mean I'm definitely a big proponent of the bus, just because it has stops in front of pretty much like all the academic buildings and all the different dorm residences. So regardless of it, whether you're going back to your dorm or like going to class, it's definitely very convenient, especially once like the weather starts to like get pretty rough, like rain or snow. So it's a nice like thing we have on campus.
Sure. Now, kind of going a little bit deeper within our community, of course, with the academics, with experiential learning opportunities, there are going to be folks that we're going to need to talk to, students that want to connect with to help with some of these opportunities. And so are there any offices on campus that you've used in your time here at BU, whether that's for academic support, for professional development, or anything in between, those type of things?
Yeah, I think one resource that was really helpful for me, especially like professionally, was our Center for Career Development. So I actually had the chance to take a course taught by someone working in the CCD during my freshman year, and it was focused. So they have a bunch of different sections that will focus on different like career paths. So it could be like careers in health and nutrition, or like careers in education. So my section, we focused on careers in government and public service. And basically throughout the semester, what they would do was just bring in BU alums in the Boston area and just have them come in with like their resumes and pretty much just dedicate the whole class to chat with them about their career paths and different things they did after they graduated. So it was really nice for me, especially my freshman year, in terms of like figuring out what I might want to do. So they were a really helpful resource. And then they would also just work in a lot of their different resources that they have in their office as well. So like mock interviews, we did a resume workshop day, they did a mock networking day. So it was a nice way to really acclimate myself with like all of the things that they offer. So
Sure. What do you think?
I was just about to agree, and the one thing that I've been able to utilize from the CCD is actually the resume workshops that you had mentioned, and also cover letter reviews. I definitely did not have those skills in the first couple of years that I was here at BU, but I thought that they were definitely important when applying for internships and things like that. So it's really nice to have that opportunity, to have the opportunity for someone to review and look over your resume and cover letter and give you some feedback on, how you can present yourself in the best way possible.
Sure. And I think for folks who maybe might be looking for some other academic support, of course, within your schools and colleges, they're going to have folks. Of course, your academic advisor is a great place to start with regard to utilizing those services. There's also students who might be teaching assistants that might help with the course with study sessions, and for folks who might be in the sciences, maybe doing some pre-lab work, if you will, to sort of make sure everyone's up to date and up to speed of what's going on within those classes. And so all those resources are available here on our campus too. Just want to highlight that really quickly. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to start off, this is a little fun segment I like to call the speed round. And so within this segment, I'm going to ask our students a quick question, either a one word or one phrase answer, and that's it. No explanation, and it's up to you all to sort of go online, sort of figure out what's going on. If there's anything that piques your interest, look it up. It might be a fun little thing you can do after the session today. All right, you guys ready?
Hope so.
All right, here we go. So obviously as quick as you can, favorite place to study on campus?
Siskin Lounge.
Siskin Lounge.
School of Theology Library.
School of Theology Library. I haven't heard that one yet. Very nice. Okay, yes. Favorite place to eat on campus?
Nud Pub. Great Thai food.
Oh, you stole mine.
Nud Pub?
Nud Pub.
Nice. Nud Pub. Gotta get it up. Favorite event that you like to attend at Boston University? We'll say social event.
Bean pot. So
Bean
it's
pot,
like,
okay.
Oh, bean pot. Yeah.
Bean pot, nice.
Yeah, bean pot.
Well, actually, no, we can pause it. What is the bean pot tournament?
Yeah. So the bean pot tournament, it's pretty much this tournament that happens, I believe it's towards like the spring every year, but it's among all the major like Boston area schools. So it's among all of our like ice hockey teams. And so I think right now, currently our women's ice hockey team is actually we won it this past year. So we're the current defending champions. So that's something to be proud of. But in terms of that, it's sort of a nice way to have bragging rights over a lot of the other schools in the area. So,
bean pot, gotta love it.
Yeah. Splash.
Splash. All right, pause. Splash.
Splash is an event. It's a very, very large one at the very beginning of each academic year, where all the clubs and student organizations basically get to table and promote their organization. All of the new students, so first year and transfer students, and really anyone is welcome to come and see what all these clubs and student organizations have to offer and whether or not they want to join.
It's huge. I mean,
huge.
Over 1,000 students plus, right, come to this event. I mean, it's incredible. Nickerson Field gets filled.
Yes.
And it's just to the capacity. It's unbelievable.
Tons of swag and merch.
Yeah, free
too.
stuff.
Free stuff.
Gotta love free stuff. Absolutely. Okay, now, favorite event to attend in the city of Boston?
The Boston Christmas tree lighting.
Oh, good one.
Happens in Boston Commons.
Very holiday, yeah.
I'm gonna go with the ice skating in Frog Pond Lake every year.
Nice. Yeah, that's in the Commons?
The Commons, the Boston Commons.
Very nice, very nice. I personally love the Boston Marathon when it comes to
that's a good one.
because schools can't do that. Awesome. And I will start with you. If there's one class that you think, if any students are interested in your program, is there any one class that you think all students should have taken? Of the class that you've taken, what class would you want to tell everyone they should take?
So it's HP 353, which means the organization and delivery of U.S. healthcare.
Ooh, very important.
I'm going to go with IR 271. So it's the Introductory International Relations course. I think it's a nice way to spark the interest if anyone is considering it. Yeah.
And all of them are IR majors now. What is one thing you hope to still accomplish in your BU career up to this point? or maybe thing to do you haven't done yet that every BU student should do?
I'm gonna go with the RETS challenge.
What is RETS challenge?
Basically on campus, RETS is like our, I guess the easiest thing to compare it to would be like Five Guys. So in terms of the RETS challenge, it's pretty much where you'd have, I believe it's a triple cheeseburger, like an 8-scoop ice cream sundae, like a root beer that you have to eat like all under 30 minutes. But if you finish it, you get, I believe they have like this little trophy and you get the meal for free. So, I mean, unless you want to pay, you better finish the meal.
Gosh.
So, I believe they even hang your picture up like on like one of their walls they have there. But it's like a nice little like challenge.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Are you prepping for this? Is this coming up soon?
Yeah.
So I definitely want to do it. I think I'm probably gonna have to do it like towards the either early of the year or like the end of the year when like not too many people are around. Just so like in case I don't finish it, like it won't be as embarrassing.
When people are away. Touche.
Yeah.
What about any sort of thing you want to do before you graduate?
Yes, I would like to eat at Bay State Underground, which
okay.
is kind of like a restaurant option that we have underneath our Bay State dining hall, and they're open like in the late hours of the night. Just never been, but I've heard they have great food, including like ramen now.
Ooh, nice.
Pretty great.
Ramen fan.
Yes, we do.
All right. Well, thank you for playing the speed round. I really appreciate this. We'll go back to some traditional questions here. And Val, I'm going to just ask you a question because you had mentioned about the morning breakfast, correct?
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
The midnight breakfast.
Midnight breakfast,
yes.
Excuse me. And that happens closer to finals time.
Yeah.
And I think when folks, especially on campus, when we think about finals, it can kind of be a stressful time. And I think that the midnight breakfast and the other things that BU might do to sort of alleviate some of that stress. Can you talk a little bit about how BU sort of tackles some things like mental health, but even just specifically for the students and making sure that they feel comfortable on campus and knowing that they have support services here available?
So we do have the student health services here on BU's campus, and you can go to them for anything related to health, but we do offer behavioral health services. A couple things came to mind. I think that in general, BU is doing a great job of really pushing for mental health awareness. And one of the things that they have done in the past, and they actually did this past semester, is they offered screenings in our George Sherman Union. So the George Sherman Union is definitely a central place on campus where like all students go. And to have the opportunity to do a screening there in such a public space really, I think, shows BU's initiative to say that, you know, the conversation on mental health is important and it's okay to have. The Student Health Services also offers really cute stress relief kits where you can get things like a stress ball or like a coloring book, little things like that that can help you relieve any stress that you may have.
That's awesome. That's great. And I know that's a conversation that we are continuing, as you mentioned, having on campus, and even just as a staff member, we also on the employee level have to go through making sure trainings and awareness of understanding of meeting the needs and demands of the students today, and making sure that we can also be advocates and resources for students too. So that's something that is literally university wide, which I really appreciate as someone who works here and is also a grad student, which is awesome. Now, switching gears a little bit, Riaz, I know we're kind of winding down on time here. You know, obviously this is a program for early decision to interested students. And so, but when you think about your time applying ED to BU, did you find that applying ED gave you, was there any advantages to that for you specifically with regard to maybe timing, finding out decisions, sort of the process itself? Like, was there any advantages you felt when you were applying ED?
Yeah, I think one of the things for me, especially in regards to like the timing, in my case, like I think one piece of advice that it was actually when I first toured BU that my tour guide gave me was that if I knew that at the end of the day that like BU was always going to be my first choice to apply early decision. And so like as senior year came around and I ended up applying ED, in terms of like being able to just find out a lot like sooner than the rest of my peers in terms of like where I was going next year, like I always knew I was going to pick BU. And so having had sort of like that sense of relief and like comfort really early on during my senior year was something that I like really appreciated and was like grateful that I did. So.
Sure. And with regard to just literally within the process of applying ED, you know, we talk about as the admissions staff, how, you know, we do track demonstrated interest in the process, and applying early decision, even early decision 2, is really the ultimate showcase of interest, designating that BU is that first choice school, right? This is the only place you want to attend. You've already like bought the sweatshirt, named your dog Rhett, you know, things like that where you might want to consider applying ED. I think that could be a great option for many students who want to showcase that, yes, it's the only place I'm considering really for my college career in the future. So I don't know, Val, do you have anything to add with regard to when you applied ED? And
I think one advantage is that, you know, you get to know early, as Ria said, where you're going. And with that, you have the time to really get to know Boston University. For me, it was great because I took the time to do a lot of research, and I learned all the traditions, all the chants that we say at our BU hockey games, and it really just gets you a little bit more excited and more enthusiastic to attend your school.
Absolutely, for sure. And some students, when they apply, they may have a program that they're already interested in applying. As you know, some students may want to perhaps, when they get here, maybe change their mind along the way. I had mentioned that within the first 2 years is when you have to sort of declare that program of interest for you to move forward in the process here at BU. But in terms of just sort of any program changes or additions, right? So Riaz, I know you had wanted to add the minor to your program. Was that easy for you? Do you know friends, or even you, Val, do you know friends that either added programs, changed their major, like how to switch schools? Like, was that, do you have any examples of that, or friends that experienced that too?
Yeah, in terms of declaring like a minor, so the way that works is that it's pretty much just a meeting with your advisor, and then also just filling out a form where you formally like declare it. So some students will either declare it first and then take the classes towards it, or the other way around would be just take all the classes for the minor and then declare it officially. So pretty easy process. In terms of transferring like majors or switching within any one of the different schools or colleges, I think one of the things that's made that really easy is our BU Hub. So it's like BU's general education program. And so one thing about it is that regardless of like what school or college you're in here at BU, we're all fulfilling the same general education requirements. So when you do transfer over, you're not losing like any credits or like courses that you had previously taken in the past. So that's really helpful. I believe the only requirement to switch majors in any one of the schools or colleges is to take the introductory class, and I believe get above a like B- or something like that. But
I actually was undecided my freshman year. So I wasn't like in a program or a degree or anything like that. And then I decided to declare my major in health science, and kind of the same thing. It was a pretty seamless and easy process. It really did require just a conversation with my advisor at the time, and really going over, you know, the credits I already had and what I was going to need in the future, and just kind of planning things out for the next few years.
Sure.
And then after that, there was like an essay component, and just making sure that you have the grades for it. But otherwise, it was pretty simple.
And that additional year just happened to be part of the program, so that wasn't anything that you had to
Yeah,
add,
so
or?
the plus 1 year actually is an additional application.
Okay.
I believe you can apply either in your sophomore spring or junior fall. I applied in junior fall, and that application did require a couple of, you know, recommendations. So I do recommend getting to know your professors and getting to know your employers, things like that on campus, so that you are prepared for that application.
Great, yeah, and that's one unique program. There are a few on campus that you might have a +1 that you can add, so that's specific to that program. So definitely check out the website for any of those additional details. As we're winding down here, you know, one of the things that I want to highlight is we talk about all these programs of study to academics and involvement on campus, off campus, Boston, study abroad, internship. There's so much here. Any small piece of advice with regard to sort of navigating social life as well as doing your academics and sort of balancing all of that together?
I would say 1, time management. If you are on top of your academics, you know, if you work hard, then you can play hard. But also I found that mixing actually both kind of works for me personally. So if I have a very big exam coming up and I'm super stressed about it, I can get together with my friends who are also in that class, and we can study together. That way, you know, you still have company, and you can order takeout for your dinner while you guys are frantically studying away. But that's been kind of my solution for that.
Great.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how hand in hand my advice goes with like time management, but really just saying yes to like everything. For me, like coming into college, I think what was really helpful was just approaching everything with like an open mind in terms of like maybe like different people you meet or just different like things you might want to get involved in while being here at BU. And so that's sort of a nice way for me to have been able to like stumble and like come across like different interests that I had, and just like different things that I might want to do. So yeah, that's sort of my
Great.
Yeah.
And my final question for our panel tonight, and if you don't mind, we're going to narrow it down to just one soundbite, if you will. Okay. If you had one piece of advice for everyone watching here this evening about sort of college admissions, the application process, any piece of advice, or even just applying ED, any one piece of advice you want to walk away, or have them walk away with here. So I think Riaz, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I would say definitely stay organized. Like there's a lot of dates and like deadlines and things like that, especially if you're considering like a number of different schools. So it's always helpful to keep that.
I would say reflect on yourself and what you would like and what you need from a college or university.
Great. Nice. The final nail of the senior of our group here,
Yes.
who was in the second last year. So thank you all so much for joining us in our program. I just want to slide to our final slide here. Just please, again, stay connected with us in any form or fashion in the future. Follow us on social media. Look at on the website. We'd love to continue to have the conversation and, of course, be here for any sort of questions or concerns you may have in the future. Until then, this is Randy, Riaz, and Val. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck, have fun with the process, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks so much.